come to the concept of business economics, environment. So if you can see, I have drawn a diagram, which the first slide, which tells you that basically we'll be talking about the new economic policy of 1991. Now, what was special about this policy is that the moment we talk about this policy, the new economic policy, we are talking about three important things. First is liberalization, second is privatization, and the third is globalization. I think I mentioned earlier in another class also that this is something which has revolutionized the entire Indian economy. So from being a closed economy, from not having resources, it has just changed it into something which is very fast moving, fast paced, technological development happening, a lot of things happening. So we have managed to bring about quite a bit of change because of these three policies. So in today's class we will be dealing with all these three policies. I'm not writing down today. Basically, I have this, but as I said, because the Wi-Fi is fluctuating, I request you all to at least write down a few points, because I have summarized the entire content and put it in bullet points for you also, so that it will be easy for you to connect to it later when you are studying. Okay. So first of all, when we are talking about liberalization, we are talking about the curtailing of government regulations to enhance private sector participation in the economy. So if you see, it's the simple definition that we are talking about, that whatever earlier we had, reserved, like in fact another class also had discussed this, that there were a lot of reservations where we said that people would not be allowed to join into different sectors. And post independence, the way the Britishers had left us was very not so good. Like actually, before the Britishers came into India, we were known as the golden bird. Means we had that much of gold and jewels and gems and resources, and we had kings and all fighting amongst us, but still all the reserves within the country were within the country, and it was more than enough for all. So there was a lot of affluence and lot of money, resources, everything in India. But over the years that Britishers ruled, they finished off most of most of whatever was there before they came in. So they brought in their systems, and as they followed the policy of divide and rule, they always tried to break down the systems, even whether it was culture, whether it was the social structure, whether it was the industrial structure. They tried to just break down everything what existed before. Okay, so this was a very important thing which happened in the Indian economy. And because of that, when we got independence, the primary objective of the government was to somehow start things. And they thought that if we start opening it for everybody else to come in, we might end up with another rule of maybe 200 years or 100 years. We did not know. So we did not want anybody to come into our country until we were strong enough ourselves. So that's why there were a lot of restrictions on getting everything from outside, to having people from the private sector coming into industries, to having foreign shares coming into the industry. So for everything, we just started putting barriers. So if you see the image over here, the first image, that breaking the chains. Now, you might feel that this is breaking the chains, but actually those chains were very important to make the economy, initially sustain itself or grow. Because without those chains, or without those barricades, I should not say chains, I should say barricades, which we placed, we were able to develop our iron and steel company. We were able to bring about many major industries into the countries, which are now called as Navratnas. Now, these Navratnas basically is a term used for 9 gems. So from the government sector also, we have these gems. We have different categories of Maharatna, Navratna. So these industries are like treasure troves of the Indian economy. They have done so well, and they have managed to bring about growth not only in the industry but in the area around. Means so many ancillary units have started, housing has started, welfare has started, and probably the cities have grown or developed only because uh, we had this kind of reservation. But when we come to 1991, at that point of time, what happened was that they said that, it's okay, you don't want to let us in. But by 1990s, the situation of balance of payments, which we'll talk later down today, became quite poor. So there was a big problem about balance of payments happening, and our our budgetary deficit was increasing. So there were problems which started emerging because of excessive restrictions. And at this point of time, it was external as well as within the country. Many of the people, they came up with that, no, now if we continue with this policy, it is not going to work in favor of India, and we need to break these chains. So that is the reason that we said that now we have to become free from all the earlier restrictions which were there. So according to that, we had different industries which we had categorized like A, B, C, different levels of industries. So in India, that categorization is according to different industries. So in this, earlier it was 18 industries which we kept within liberalization, that these areas we will not allow. But now even those areas have opened up to a large amount, because initially we are taken related with hazardous chemicals. Security concerns still comes under restricted policies, it will not come here. But other than that, like luxury goods and all, now you have let them open. Secondly, we said that in the public sector, there were only two industries. One was atomic energy, and the second was railways. So till now, railway in India is not privatized. It is still under the government. Okay, so we hear that we will start with bullet trains and other things, and it might go into privatization. But currently, Indian Railways is still with the government. Airways is not, but railways is still with the government. And third was that we did not want foreign direct investment. Now, if you see, there are many countries actually where there were huge amount of foreign direct investment, and what happened is, after a time period, when see, if I have no loyalty towards a different country, I have my loyalty towards my country, but I might not have the same amount or same intensity of loyalty towards another country. So why am I going to that country? I'm going to that country to trade and to make money. So what I'm doing is, I am investing in stock shares. When I think I have made enough adequate amount of money, I withdraw my funds. Okay. What happens to that economy which is depending on your funds? It will collapse. And there are many examples. If you search out on the net, you'll find there are many examples of countries which have collapsed because of this, and there has been acute crisis in those countries. So what they said was, we will allow investments, but not like only portfolio investments. We want people to come in and build. Okay, so you'll find the difference that if I'm just investing some money, it is very easy for me to withdraw the money and go. But if I'm building a house, it is not easy for me to break the house, because I have spent money making the house. So that way, the government felt that if a particular firm from outside is investing in infrastructure, then ultimately their loyalty and liability to a country will be more, and they will naturally try to do some betterment for the country as well as, of course, themselves. No businessman will come anywhere in the world without their own personal motive of doing well. Okay, so that's the reason we came to the 1991 policy. So the first term that we have over here, which I've displayed for quite some time now, is liberalization. So if you see over here, it is clearly written that we have reduced industrial licensing. So all the licensing policies has gone off. Limited private sector industries. As I told you, hardly anything is left under private sector industries. Maybe security reasons, atomic industries, hazardous chemicals. These are few which are there. Then FDI regulations, foreign direct investment, we said no, let's allow them to come in, let's allow them to invest in a country. It is good for our economy. And restructured secure industry. So there were many industries, like I said, the 9 gems in India, which were doing very well. But there were many industries, the government sector, which was functioning but not doing anything, not making any profits, not actually doing much. It was just draining out the precious funds which we had. So then they said this is not a good idea. So these industries, what we'll do is we will give them a chance. We'll see if we can make them better. But if they are not becoming better, then we will give them the golden handshake, give a certain compensation to the people, and close them down. Okay, so these were little harsh steps, and probably when people are very, government sector is always a very comfortable area to work on or work in as compared to private sector. We know that suddenly you lose your job and people say, okay, we are not continuing with the industry. It will not be seen in a good light. But at the end of the day, it is an important step, because the resources are limited. Of a developing country, we do not have infinite resources. So naturally, we would want to use the resources in the best possible manner. We cannot afford to let the resource run in any way possible. Okay. So the second thing that we come to is privatization. Now, privatization in simple words only means transfer of ownership from public to private sector. So whatever is owned by the government will come to the people. So that is what we will always want to do. Ultimately, the government's role is always a supportive role. Remember this, that when we study economics, this is a key point that we talk about, that the government always has a supportive role. The government is not competitive. In the world today, we find many governments have become competitive. They are fighting with the private people or individuals for resources, for money, for everything. But that is not the role of the government. The role of the government is always supportive in nature. This is what economics says. As I told you, reality might be very different, but this is what is told through any of the you know uh, laws which we study under economics, that the government always plays a supportive role. When I did 2 sector, 3 sector, and 4 sector circular economy with you all, I hope some of you remember that. Some of you remember that in the 2 sector economy. Can I just hear what is there, or you can put it in the chat? I can just read quickly. Can you tell me? Yes. Can you just write down quickly in the chat? What do we have in the 2 sector economy? Let me just see how many of you remember what I taught earlier. 2 sector economy, what all is there? Anyone? I had drawn all the diagrams. So in the 2 sector economy, I told you that we have the firm, we have the households, and we have the firms, and then we have factor market and product market. And we talk about circular flow of money, how resources are bought by the firms and goods and services are produced by the firm, and the money goes around. Means it comes from the firms to the household, and from the households to the firm. So it goes in a circle. That is called as real flow. Thank you, Nirmal. Very nice to hear that answer. That is the real flow. And then we have the money flow, where we talk about the money going around in the economy. Now, after that, we had the three sector. What is added in the three sector economy? Who is added in the three sector economy? Anyone? Government. Excellent. Excellent, Jafar. So we have the government, which is added in the third three sector. So you know that the three sector economy where we add the government is because we want the government to play a supportive role, not start fighting with people and saying we also want things and we also want to sell things. That's not the attitude of the government. The government is supposed to balance off. Maybe later you will study this in managerial economics, that you have something which is called as the inflationary gap and the deflationary gap. Inflationary gap is when you have the prices are very high and too much demand for goods is there. There is the government's role to supply goods so that the demand is balanced out. When there is deflationary gap, that means there is no demand in the market. It is the government's role to go and demand things so that the gap can be fulfilled. But in most of the countries or most of the places, what is happening is the government is only creating inflation because it itself has so much demand. Okay, so that is the problem that we talk about. So here, if you see, we say that ownership measures is we are talking about public to private sector. What are the organizational measures? The organizational measures are limited state control. The state will not interfere in the functioning of this particular unit. Formed holding companies. So generally, we have more of joint stock companies. That is what we mean. Leasing agreements. You can let other people interfere in the company, and they can work in the company, and they get a lot of benefit from there. That is what we take as leasing agreements. And restructuring, this is a very important point which I mentioned in the first point also, that restructuring of public sector. The units which are making a loss, we give them a chance. If they're able to revive and if they're able to do better, very fine. But if they're not, then we think of closing them. And operational measures, what are we supposed to do? Autonomy for public sector. So we give full autonomy to public sectors. You'll find that even if we talk about government sector, some industries which are doing very well, the common complaint which comes from these industries is that why aren't you giving us a chance to do better? If you give us more resources, we'll be able to work better, we'll be able to do things better. But many times there is too much of bottlenecks, there is too much of red tapeism. You don't allow them to do anything. And the worst part is the companies which are doing well, from there you take the resources and go and put it into an industry which is not doing well, so that it manages to just survive. So that is definitely not a good way. It is like you take scholarship from one person and give it to another person who is not even wanting to pass. And if you work for the scholarship, you know that that will be really something which will hurt you. Okay, so that is the same case which we are talking about here. Okay, so freedom to buy inputs. Now, freedom to buy inputs means a person does not have restrictions that you can only buy this much amount, you cannot buy from abroad, you cannot buy from this particular country, you cannot buy from that particular place. So I am giving you freedom to buy the raw materials at the best possible prices and the best possible quality. So if I'm allowed to do that, naturally I will get a chance of getting the best for my company. Okay, so these are some of the areas which we talk about under privatization. Then we come to the third one, which is globalization. Globalization, the first very important thing which was there as a major problem was too many restrictions. You cannot import anything. So if something, suppose I'll give you an example, that if something was costing 10 rupees in India, and you were getting it for 2 rupees outside. Maybe I'll give the example. It is costing $10 in India, but if you import it, it is costing you only $2, some input. Okay, because it might be cheaper. Now, what I do is I put so much of tax on it that ultimately when you try to buy it from outside, it starts costing you $20. Okay, so what will you do? You will naturally go ahead and buy whatever is available in your country, even if it is not of such good quality, and you end up paying that $8 more, and you're getting a worse quality input. And if your inputs are not good or your raw material is not good, how do you expect the outputs to be of world class quality? So naturally, this is a major problem, and generally they do that they put 200% tax. So 200% tax means so much more you're paying, and not so people are demotivated. Then there are so many reservations that you need hundred of different kinds of approvals to do anything. So yeah, all these steps are taken so that you're totally demotivated and you don't at all think about going into the direction of getting things from another country. Okay. Second, so once we started with globalization, we said, let us open it. Let people buy the inputs and buy things where they are getting it at a better cost, at a better rate. So let's just go ahead and do that. Okay. Then encouragement of foreign investment. That is FDI project. If it is something that you want to invest in, somebody wants to invest, let us just approve it. Let the money flow come into the country. And if it is leading to a lot of people benefiting, let us just go ahead and do it without even thinking. So this is another very important thing. And quantitative restrictions, as I said, that we will say that it is not that you can buy 10 units and you can't buy 20 units, all that we will end. So if you see some of the important aspects of globalization, I've put it in this picture. So you can see trade to GDP ratios are increasing for most countries. So the amount of trade which is happening in a country is actually going up by a large proportion. Second, expansion of financial capital flows between countries. So we are encouraging all over the world. This is not just India. All over the world, we want capital flows to be there so that we become a global economy, that easily money can be transferred from one place to another. Then we have foreign direct investment cross borders. So everywhere a person should be allowed to invest. A rising number of global brands. This also in India, now you find that most of the malls that we have all international brands, international products coming in. So it's no longer difficult to buy a brand. But still I would say that in areas like supermarkets and other areas, we generally don't once again we generally don't still have so much of it coming in. It's still a sector which is developing, and probably in the next few years you'll find that this also has increased quite a bit, and you can have all these things. Then deeper specialization of labor. Anybody whose concept is division of labor in an economy? Anyone? Division of labor was given by which economist? That's a very, very important question, because that's why we come to specialization. If we don't know who has given the concept of division of labor, we cannot talk about specialization. So, who's the economist who first talked about division of labor? Anyone? No, not Karl Marx. Karl Marx is much, much later. Anyone else? You can guess. It's okay. I'll let you know, but just let me hear what other names you have. Because I'll give you that example. That's a very important example here. Emil, no. Think back to father of economics, actually. Who's the father of economics?
It's Lord Keynes. It's
No,
Lord
no.
Keynes.
Keynes is much later. No. Yes, correct. Alasan, yes, absolutely correct answer. Adam Smith. So when we talk about Adam Smith, he is the first one who said division of labor leads to specialization. So the whole concept of division of labor comes with Adam Smith. Now, this is a very famous example. They say that suppose you can just Google search it also if you want, because this is a very, very important example which he has given, where we say that, the pins to the pinheads. Okay, so if we talk about the pin to the pinhead, we are saying that, if there's one person and he has to make the entire pin by himself, you'll find that he has to melt that whatever, and construct it into that thin one line. Then he has to make a pinhead, then he has to stick the pinhead, and then maybe he has to collect those many pinheads and put it into the box. And if there are 50 pinheads, I think all of you can understand he will not be able to make probably more than 5 or 10 pins in a day. But the moment we come to division of labor, there is one person who's melting the steel, another person who is formulating it into the straight line part of it, another person is making the pin head, then there's one person who's sticking the pin head to the pin, and another person is going ahead and packing it. So here, now I have divided the process into 4 or 5 parts. So every person has a particular role. And you think of any industry in today's date, that is how it works. So the output of the production which is ultimately happening is immense. And this is only possible because of division of labor. And it is a very 1890s concept. I think 1890s or even before that, that we start of division of labor. We think of specialization as something which is recent. It is not. So according to economics, that's one of the basic principles which he has given. Now, the only thing is, imagine your life, and I'd like to know this. Imagine your life if you have to spend your entire life putting, you're specialized, and you have to, you just know how to stick the pinhead on the pin. How exciting do you think your life is going to be if your entire life you're just doing one thing, putting pinheads on pins? Would you look forward to going to work every day or doing something? How great do you feel about the concept that you go in the morning at 9 o'clock and you're there till 5 o'clock and you're just putting pinheads on pins? Yes, anyone? Please tell
It
me
is,
if I give you. Yes.
it's become very monotonous.
Yeah.
No, no, no.
Yes, correct. So, will you look forward to going there to work? Would you be interested in doing that work all through your life, uh, for 30 years?
It will not increase our skill.
Yeah.
We
So,
just, we
no,
just
I'm just
learn one
asking.
word.
Yes. Yes. Somebody said something. Sorry, I missed out. Please tell me. Anyone? Salome, I think you were trying to tell me something. Okay. Uh, okay. Just write a yes and no very quickly in this, to tell me how many of you would like to do this job. Let me see a response. So quickly tell me how many of you would like to take up this job for maybe your entire work life of maybe 37 to 40 years of putting the pin on the pinhead. Ismail, you would like to do that job? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Some more people? I got some responses, but nice. Maximum people. Ismail, why would you like to do this job? Please tell me. Yes, Ismail. I got a yes from you. That's why I want to know, why would you like to do this job? No, okay, yes, that's a better answer. So exhaustive. So that's what happens is that's why we say that this is a very important concept. Division of labor, super specialization that we are talking about nowadays is like that. Means you go to a doctor, he'll say, "I can't treat you for this because I have not worked in that area." Earlier, when you had a general practitioner, he would know generally if you went to him and he could give you some kind of medicine. But nowadays, if you go to a doctor and he's a super specialist, he will not even try to give you a medicine for a normal fever. He will say, "You go to this person because I have not done this." So what happens is, we need super specialization, but excessive super specialization or excessive division of labor is also harmful for the production. Now suppose that person who was putting that pin on the pinhead does not come today. What happens? Nobody else knows his work. So the entire day's work of getting pins made does not happen. Okay, so you're not able to do any production because one person, one key person over here has gone missing. So there are a lot of problems also associated with this. So what I was telling you is deeper specialization of labor. Now we are not talking about only specialization of labor in one factory. We are talking about specialization of labor among countries, and I'll come to this because this is a very, very important point. Among countries means one country makes engines very well, one country makes tires very well, another country has the best quality paints, another person makes very good leather. So what are you doing is these four countries or six countries collaborate to make a car. Now one day one company suddenly says that, "Oh, this is not giving me so much benefit, I'm sorry, I don't want to make the engines for your car any longer." What do you do? Anyone?
We
I
have
want
to
to hear
look
on.
for
Yes. Yes, Nirmal.
we have we have to look for another country, because if the country is not interested, this it will affect the flow of
Hmm.
production. Hmm?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yes,
So why
we
don't you think of making it yourself rather than looking for another country?
yes, because it's better for us to do it ourselves. It depends on the labor. If the labor is not available, it's all depends on
Hmm.
some factors. But we have
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I
So
get your point. Correct.
yeah.
Yes. Anyone else would like to say something?
You can look for substitutes.
Okay. Yes, Ravi, we can look for substitutes, but this is what I'm saying that, when I come down to the policy later, that is why I'm putting you in that frame of mind that what happens is that you are totally dependent on another country to provide a very important part. Any of these parts are very important because you will not get a finished car without all these parts being together. Okay, so what happens when there is some condition of unrest, something which is happening in that country which is not at all related to you, and you lose out completely on your production, on your gains, on your resources? So, yeah, doing it yourself would help to reduce additional expenses. I know that's a very correct answer and approach, Isaac, but this is why it is very complex because. Sometimes we say, why shouldn't we get German technology is very good, why shouldn't we get technology from there? Okay, in another country something else, in India you get cheaper labor, so why shouldn't we use labor from India? Or another country, you say that, oh, they have a lot of money and they would like to invest. So collaborative efforts are good, but as I said, there is always a light and a shadow. You have a area which is very positive. You also have areas which is negative. So any country to grow or develop has to bring about a balance between both these areas. You cannot deal with one and leave the other saying that, oh, this is not important. So both the things have to be given equal importance is what I'm trying to say over here. Okay, we'll come to this when we come to the Atmanirbhar policy. So I'll discuss this more. Now, global supply chains, again, we are talking about all countries coming together, many countries coming together and doing things together. Okay. Like for India, I recently heard, like for Dubai, to bring about connectivity, now they are coming into creating a railway which is going to be under the sea, connecting India and Dubai. Okay, to bring about better transport, because so many people from India go for holidays and they bring about so much of tourism for that particular place. And naturally it's valuable resources, everybody can't just fly, and that many flights are not possible, and it takes time. So they said they have started a process of creating an just imagine how we are going with our technology, that it is a train, a railway which will run under the sea. Okay, so I feel these are areas which we have not thought about at all, and I found it very, very, impressive, I should say, unique and even scary. Because what happens if suddenly that whole tunnel breaks, or means there's a certain danger to it also. But of course, with technology, when they're building, they will take time. But see, that's how we are moving. So a lot of very, very interesting things are happening. Yes, Khan, you want to say something? Mungru, you want to say something? I can see your hand raised. Any point? Any point you'd like to share? You can tell me later, no problem. Yeah. No, no problem. You can always unmute and tell me something. I'm perfectly open to listening to all of you. Okay. So then you have increasing levels of international labor migration. Big problem. Because when you have yourself have such a huge population and you are not able to manage them, give them employment and do other things, how are you going to manage people from other countries? Like in India also, we have a huge migration problem which is happening from all the neighboring countries. So people come in. Now our population by itself is so huge. Where to find these people, and how to find out about this? Let me give you an example of this. And it's quite an interesting example, that once we had in our place, we had a student who had come to study, and I know this personally. I was not there. Uh, Another, he was from Afghanistan, and he when he came here, he joined as a student, and then there was some kind of foreign trip which is planned for different students. So we took that student, and we did not want to take, but they took special permission, and the student went with the group, and they went to US. Okay, for a travel of educational trip of some 10 days. That student reached late, and he disappeared before the teacher or anybody could find out. What did he do? He migrated into the country. Do you understand the level of the problem? And everybody tried to look for him, contact him. All his phones, all his home numbers, everything was blocked. What do you say about this when you talk about international migration? It is not only migration through borders, it is so many different techniques of migration which are used. I'm just giving you one example. I'm not saying that that particular country is like that or anything. I'm just giving you an example of one of the people, one of the students I know who did use this method for migrating into another country. So, uh, how do you find this example? I should ask. Do you think these countries are actually facing so much of migration problems? Some countries. Yes or no? How was the example? Do you think that example is the example I gave you is a very believable example? but it is an actual incident that I have talked about. I'm not just giving you one general example of something. It's an example which I have particularly witnessed. That's why I'm telling you. And please don't mistake, I was not the teacher, but yeah, one of my very close friends had gone for this visit, so I know of it. So you can understand the degree to which we face international migration problems. Okay, so that is also there. Then increasing connectivity of people, which I said, that mobiles, and we all know that nowadays internationally in India, IT sector is totally working with US and UK, and mainly with US. And it is only because you've got such good Wi-Fi connections, and you've got mobiles, and maximum people are working like that for all international countries everywhere. So that kind of development actually has taken place when we talk about globalization. Is everybody clear or able to understand till this point? Can I get a thumbs up so that I know all of you followed me till this point? Okay. Well, yes. Let me see everybody at least responding here. Yeah, thank you. That's nice. Thank you. So next we come to the new economic policy of 2014. So we start with the trade policy. Now there are two areas when we talk about export from India scheme. The first is merchandise exports from India scheme. Okay, just corrected. It is FROM. Okay, from India. So here we say the goods which are being exported from India, and then we also have services export from India scheme for service exports. So here we want to say that under the foreign trade policy, we wanted to promote both these schemes. So what did we do is, for incentives, we said that you had this freely transferable duty credit slips. So these slips could be given to any person, and that person could just easily use it to get different things and get duty free things. And a lot of benefits came from this particular venture which was undertaken. Then special focus, so status holders that they are into SEGs, special export promotion zones, or export promotion areas, industries, they were given a social status that a lot of leverage. If they had that card with them, it could be used in many places. So that is a big advantage which started because of globalization, and it led to many people going into foreign trade, and getting uh, getting more exports for India. So they started making things, and initially all these things became little easier to get and do. So many people started trying for these particular things. Then we come to other initiatives. So the first initiative which we talk about here is your Prime Minister Jan Dhan Yojana, where we say that you provide finance even if a person has 0 rupees in his account. So if a farmer comes, or a person comes, or an exporter comes, that okay, today I really require money because I'm buying some good and I don't have my finances now and I can pay later, the person will give you that sum of money, and that loan can be for one day, it can be for 1 week. The time period can be decided, but you just provide that person with a loan even if there is no balance in the account. Then we have a Mudra scheme. This is for micro enterprises, so small scale industries which are there, and for them we said that it is not required that you keep anything as collateral. So if you don't have a house, if you don't have land, if you don't have gold, if you don't have anything, without that also we will easily give you loans. Then you had Swachh Bharat Mission. Now this is a very important thing, sanitation drive, and this is generally a big problem in India with so many slums. I think everybody knows about it. So this was a very good initiative which was started by our honorable Prime Minister, and it has uh, you know uh, become quite a popular scheme. and even for defecation, many people, because they do not have toilets at home, uh, it is a big problem. So the creation of public toilets, creation of many public toilets in many areas, or even easy loans for creating for making a toilet at home, was provided under this scheme. So this is very important scheme where India is concerned. Then we have Skill India. So here we do what we do is we try to give some kind of benefit to the people who are there. Okay, so that is something which we would like to show. Now I'll just try to play. I don't know whether this clip will play here. Otherwise, I'll play it from another sector. One second. Just give me 1 second. Let me just try if I can go here. Can you see my screen? Can you all see my screen?
Yes, Pat.
So let me just try to play this. Okay, is it audible to you?
No, it's not audible, ma'am.
Okay. I'll just try. Let me just see if possible. I'll try to open this clip. 1 second. Uh, 1 sec. Just give me a second. Because I want to play these two clips. They are very good. Can you help me play these two clips? Could you all see? Could you see the video?
No, no, madam.
Could you see the video? No. Okay. Okay. Let me
No,
just
no.
try. Just give me 1 minute.
afternoon. I'm sure all of you will have heard the Honorable Prime Minister speak last night to the nation. He laid out a vision, a comprehensive vision. And that vision was Good afternoon. I'm sure all of you will have heard the Honorable Prime Minister speak last night to the nation. He laid out a vision, a comprehensive vision. And that vision was laid out after wide and deep consultation with several sections of our society. And these discussions were held at various levels, with various ministries, and also gradually taken up to the level of the Prime Minister's office. And the Prime Minister himself has been spending considerable time to make sure that the inputs obtained are given due consideration and they form a part of the package that's being given to the country. Essentially, this is to spur growth and to build a very self-reliant India. And that's where this whole initiative is called as Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. And the word Atmanirbhar India is the one which you will be hearing me say quite often. I know, coming from South India, a lot of people wondered what it actually meant. So for their benefit, I'll just say what it means in the 4 languages, subject of course to perfectionist corrections. Suya Sarbu Bharatam in Tamil, Suya Adharita in Telugu, Suyam Asaritam in Malayalam, and Swayam Alam Avalambita in Kannada. Subject to correction, it may not be the perfect translation, but something to take it closer to what it means. So Atmanirbhar Bharat is what we are talking about. And you heard the Prime Minister clearly say that this is going to be resting on 5 important pillars. 5 important pillars: the economy, infrastructure, technology-driven systems, demography, and demand. So if these are the 5 pillars on which we are trying to build Atmanirbhar Bharat, the focus obviously will be what can be defined as the factors of production in today's language. Factors of production, all of us know that we've been hearing it: land, labor, capital, and enterprise. Today, we recast it, say it the same way, but then essentially referring to the very same factors of production, but in this Atmanirbhar Bharat, our focus therefore would be on those factors of production which are land, labor, liquidity, and law. So essentially, it addresses issues of ease of doing businesses, ease of doing, compliance and regulations being due diligence observed, and so on. And in this, the intention is to build brands. Intention is also to take local brands and build them to a global level. So there is a global value chain integration also as a part of this vision, which the Prime Minister has put before us. Certainly, when he says
Okay. Uh,
it certainly talks about a confident India which can rest on its strengths and also be able to contribute to the globe, the way in which the Prime Minister rightly pointed out. The production of PPE and masks and also ventilators to an extent has rapidly grown within these 40 days.
So, what is it that you have understood through this policy? That was our finance minister speaking over there. So, was it clear? Because I wanted to play the clip rather than me explaining. I thought it would be nice if you could hear it from the horse's mouth about the policy which was there. So, I hope the whole concept was little clear to you, because here we talk about how the economy has developed due to the new policy and what it is all about. So now for some time I'll be talking about the Atmanirbhar policy, and this is a very very important policy because it's a very recent policy, and we are still trying to find out whether it is what is the positive, what is the negative, what are the changes which are required. So all these kind of things can be learned through the policy which we are following. Okay, so is everybody clear till this point? There's one more clip I'll play later down so that you can listen to it also. Was this clear? Everybody was able to hear? Yeah, thank you. So, can I have the other people also responding? I'm just getting, thank you, Nirmal, for that immediate response, but definitely I would like to see some more, yes, some more people responding. Thank you. That's really nice. Okay. So now we come to the policy, and I'll define this policy in details for you all. So when we come to the new economic policy of 2020, the first is micro, small, and medium enterprises. This is very, very important. MSMEs. Do you have the same concept in your countries? Because for us currently, the government is targeting or looking into these enterprises so that there can be a lot of development. We can come into doing a lot of things through these enterprises. So large scale industries are very very important, of course, we all know, but the focus here is that if you want India to be Atmanirbhar, you have to have quite a bit of dedication towards these industries. So for that, a lot of stress has gone on micro, small, and medium level enterprises. So the government is really promoting these kind of enterprises. Do you have something of on the similar lines in your country? Anybody would like to say? Any of you? On similar lines, any of you have the same concept in your countries where we talk about more amount of loans, more amount of stress-free work, and all kinds of benefits for a country? Yes, for a particular place where you are getting, these small and micro industries. Anyone? Any policies in your country which is similar on this line? Do you have similar policies like the Atmanirbhar Bharat? Okay, let me define it first, then I'll ask you. So the second one that you have is agriculture and allied sector. So here we have, earlier the emphasis was only on agriculture, but now we have shifted to allied sector. So we are talking about sericulture, pisciculture, animal husbandry, poultry, all the different sectors. And we find that we should not only just keep on saying agriculture. We also need to connect and give easy loans to all the other areas which are related to this. So if we are not doing that, then it means that we are losing out on a lot of employment opportunity, a lot of output productivity opportunities which can come to the country. So that focus has now shifted to the others. Third is migrant workers, one nation, one card. That means wherever you are, earlier it used to be sector wise, place wise, which village you belong. According to that, you get a local card. Now they said that in India you have one card which is there for that. And just imagine, this is a beautiful point, ration benefits for migrants. I was just telling you that with a country which has such a huge population, we still are giving, thinking of migrants, and we want to give those people a ration card so that they do not go hungry, and we are able to give them subsidized food and basic necessities in India. Then, of course, housing schemes for migrant workers if they are traveling within states or to different areas. Then, are you able to hear me? Because I cannot see the other screen. So, yes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So, so you'll find that this kind of, this such a beautiful scheme. I feel that, one nation, one card, giving ration benefits, looking into housing for people who have traveled from one state to another, or have gone into different areas, or have migrated from some other country into India and have been here for a long period of time. Now, why this becomes an important point is, see, there are a lot of people before the country divided into Pakistan and Bangladesh and all. These people belong to India. So many people have moved from this place to that place, a sector. So that also we need to consider. And the last thing again is very important, credit facilities for street vendors. What are we providing for people who are working on the street, who just might only have the street food kind of thing? In India, if you come to, I hope you all visit one day. So if you come to India, you'll see there's so many people who are selling food on the road, and their finances are very, very less. So okay, you have, that's nice, Ravi, that you have these schemes in Mauritius also, because ultimately we have to look into people who are not very well off and see how we can help those people at the end of the day. So here also credit vendors, so street vendors, we just provide them with easy loans or some something to buy their basic material, maybe a cart they want to buy, or they want to buy raw material for giving every day. They're making some kind of food or selling some kind of thing. So to help them do all this also, we should try to give some kind of benefit is what we require to do. Okay, so that is also part of Atmanirbhar Bharat, because after all, if you're giving all these kind of facilities, you're ultimately if you talk about these street vendors and all, sorry, if you, oh, 1 second. Yeah. So if you're talking about these people, you'll find that you are creating entrepreneurship opportunities. So entrepreneurial opportunities does not mean it has to be at a very high level. It can also be at the ground level, where the person is just working on the street. So those people are also entrepreneurs. Any person who wants to go and start a business of his own is an entrepreneur, isn't it? So it doesn't mean that he has to have crores of rupees and so much, like you heard Mrs. Sitaraman also saying that the 4 factors of production that we talk about have to be encouraged. Okay, then civil aviation and defense. So of course you have to start building your own things. You cannot continue depending on others to provide you defense facilities. You have to invest in innovations, in research, and except for maybe the recent statistics somewhere I heard, except for maybe US and China, the research all over the world is very, very low. So 90% of the countries just let these people do the research, and then they come and they just imitate. So it's more of imitate rather than honest research which goes on. Another problem definitely we should acknowledge, that when we are developing countries, we have lack of resources. So I have to decide if I should provide food for people, what is happening, food for people, or whether I should put it in research. Naturally, if I see the priority, I will say, why I have to first feed a person so that he's alive? Research I can do later. So that's why it becomes slowly the last priority, and you don't manage to have that much of required funds for research. Okay. Then we come to energy. So we are looking into privatization of power utilities and power supply. Also, we are looking into alternative power supply and social sector. Now, this is a very interesting thing. In fact, my PhD thesis is on Manrega, which is written here. So it is Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. This is a very beautiful scheme which says that you provide 100 days of employment to a person who is unskilled in a rural area. And very important, you provide the employment, if there's a ratio, one third should be women. So if you are employing 100 people, 30 have to be women. And this is one of the very rare schemes which really talks about rural development. It talks about providing employment. It talks about basic minimum wages. It talks about so many other things. Green economy, because most of the works they do is create dams and look into water supplies and create small sheds for animals to stay in. So it's promoting animal husbandry, etc. So it's doing a lot of these works which are very, very beneficial. So it's a very important scheme, and it has been going on for a very long time. And since this was during the COVID period, we started with digital education, and this was called as PME Vidya. So people who are in the rural area were given a certain sum of money to buy the mobile packs, or buy that recharge, so that they could attend online classes. So that or even in schools they started with Wi-Fi facilities so that the students could attend online classes. So that was a very interesting thing that started due to Atmanirbhar. Okay, so if you see what she had talked about, I'm just going back there. So if you see, there are 5 pillars that we talk about when we talk about self reliant India. So the first is economy. Without a growth in the economy, naturally you can't have anything else. So the first and foremost thing has to be that you get your economy on track, and you get a huge amount of development happening in the economy. Then we talk about infrastructure. Now, if you want the economy to develop and it doesn't have infrastructure, development cannot take place. You want a very good industry to be set up in a rural area where there is no electricity, there are no roads, there is no water supply, there's no electric supply. Is it a possibility? You just cannot do it. So unless you have good roads, unless you have Wi-Fi connections, unless you have proper connectivity in terms of roads, railways, all the other things, you are able to supply electricity, you are able to supply water, you are able to supply good labor, you have housing, you have welfare, you cannot develop. So without infrastructure, no economy can grow ever. Okay. The third is system. So here we say that in today's state, earlier you used to say that man and machine is enough. Now we say technology. Without technology, you just cannot think of improvement. And if you do an analysis, if any of you write a project later down, you can just think that suppose we say that we take technology out from how we are living today. As I mentioned before, we would not even be having this class. Isn't it amazing? All of you are sitting in different countries. I am sitting in a different country, and I am able to teach you all, and you all are able to study through a resource. It is technology. So everything that we do, if you look around you in a day, and try to survive one single day without any kind of technology, today's day we will say it is like literally impossible to do that. So you have to have very strong technology driven incentives in the country. Then Demography. Now, this is a very interesting point because maximum people will say that population is a problem. But we forget population is a huge resource. When we come to different countries where population is not there and they don't have enough people to work, we have a country where we have a very good and healthy and young working class. We should have methods to use that population. So population can be turned into a resource for not only India but for worldwide. In today's date, you find Indians working all over the world, and they're very good workers. So naturally, they're working all over the world. Even the top positions of so many countries all over the world, you'll find Indians. So you say that it is a resource. It is a resource which we need to develop properly and start thinking of it as a resource rather than as a problem. So we have spent years and years thinking population is a problem, but it's about time we acknowledge that population is also a very, very important resource. And the last is demand. So unless you have demand in a market, you cannot do anything. So you might be doing a lot of production, you might be supplying a lot of things, but if you're not having demand, and demand comes from income. So if a person is earning enough, he will want to spend enough. Every person who's earning enough would like a better life, would like luxurious goods, would like comfort goods, would like a beautiful house. If I can afford it, why shouldn't I want a castle? I might want a palace to live in because I can afford it. So that is a very important thing. Create demand. Once you create the demand, supply and production will follow. To a large extent, all these three things are connected. So if you are able to create a good demand for goods, you can automatically have more supply, you can have more production, you can have more growth, a lot of positives. Okay. Now, if you see, the main areas are package of and this is a huge amount. Okay, 10% of GDP has to go into these five sectors. So about 20 lakh crores is estimated, and this is an old figure. So you'll find that so much money, they said, let's put it into the different five pillars and bring about growth over there. Then focus on land, labor, liquidity, and laws. So wherever there is requirement for change of laws, change of you want easy methods of getting things done, let us do it. So let's make all procedures very simple, and you'll find that what has happened nowadays, actually processes have become much simplistic, lesser corrupt. Many countries we hear there's so much amount of corruption, but nowadays what has happened is you can fill all your forms online, a lot of those sectors. So earlier you used to go to a clerk and you had to pay the person a bribe or something to pass the file and get it signed. So there were a lot of bureaucratic bottlenecks which were there. But the moment it has become digitalized, now you sit at home and you fill a form, and the form directly goes to that particular concerned person, and from there it is processed within a period of 5 days, 10 days, and it comes back to you. So all these intermediaries who are blocking the path and making it very difficult are generally getting sorted out. Okay, so that is a very positive thing. I hope you all also have this in your country, because I think that is a very, very good thing which has happened. It is taking us time to learn it. I'm not saying it's a very simple process, because you feel, oh, which form to fill, how to get it filled, and what is the information which is going. And many times you find in developing countries, and especially with India, it's very interesting when you call some people who are not educated and belong to rural areas, they will come and say, like, I'll give you a very interesting example. One person used to come to work for me. She had some 4 children, and we had to make one ID card for her. So because it is in some rural area, very interior area that she belonged to, there was no registration, there was no birth certificate that any of her family members had. So when she came to us and we said we need an ID card to be made, she told my husband that, sir, you write their ages. So she said, oh, it was raining when my eldest son was born, and it was very hot when my youngest daughter was born, and approximate age you can write for them. So isn't it a very difficult thing? So when you want an online form to be filled and you say it is compulsory to put in a birth certificate, probably currently with many people it is not going to be easy, but slowly the systems are developing, coming into place, and maybe in the next few years we'll find that all these things will be much more synchronized and happening quite a bit. For example, I'll give you my example. Now, before my wedding, I had a different surname. After my wedding, I have a different surname. So my education certificates are in one name, my post-marriage work certificates are in another name. Now, if I have to put all these certificates in a digital platform, it is very difficult because the names do not match. And if you go and meet a person, that person will listen to you, understand, and clear it for you. But when you have to put it online, there's a computer sitting on the other end, it will not accept it. Correct or not? Are you able to understand what I'm trying to say? It might be a very different
Yes, yes.
thing. Yeah. So if you see, I'm giving you a very different kind of idea about, digitalization is good, but digitalization works when all the other things are in place. So uh, these are lot of problems. So now, like, I'm giving you a personal thing. Now finally I had to go to court and I had to get an affidavit that all my other names, like, here you'll see it is written as Jhumur Roy, somewhere else it is Jhumur Samaddar, somewhere else it is Jhumur Samaddar Roy, and I had to get the spellings are different. So if somebody has made a certificate maybe 10 years back, the spelling of the name is written wrong. Somewhere they have written Kumari, which is Miss. So in Hindi you write Kumari. So Kumari is a name in some places. So I hope you get the feel of it, that how difficult it is. So ultimately we had to get one affidavit made that all these names are mine. So so you can imagine it's very interesting, but it is sometimes very difficult also when you're dealing with a computer on the other side. But if you're dealing with a human being on the other side, you can make a person understand uh, what you're talking about. So this is one problem, because you cannot go and explain all this to a computer. It'll, the moment you put in a certificate, it'll write rejected. But this is how our economies are evolving. At least Indian economy, we are very particular that, before marriage and later you take your husband's name, so the name changes. So you can understand how uh, how different it is. So these are challenges which we will face when we talk about you know technology driven economies. Many countries in the world, probably most of you also might have those kind of systems, that automatically, if a child is born, the birth certificate is uploaded online or things are uploaded. So we are slowly getting there, but we have a lot of rural population which is not literate, and they poor those poor people really still have a problem with these kind of things. So I hope this example was clear to make you understand how important something like Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan stands at. So a lot of things are slowly coming into place because of it. Okay, so a lot of important reforms are needed, which I will be discussing. So you have the supply chain reforms, rational behavior reforms. Then you have human resources, simple systems to be put in place. So you remove off all the complicated things, make it simple that any individual can easily finish something in no time. But I would still say that digitalization works only for educated people. If a person is not educated and cannot read and write, how is he going to be able to do anything? Because ultimately, to understand the process, we have to know how to read and write. Any instruction which is given, anything which you have to click on, you have to read. So that is a basic important level before you can come into completely digitalized economy. So that is something which we are working on. And then of course you need a very strong financial system, which there are no frauds and no negative things happening. We want the positives to go on in life. Okay, so those are some of the important things about Atmanirbhar Bharat. So I've normally talked about it. So if you see, this is a policy which has come out in May 2020, and as I told you, the main pillars are economy, infrastructure, system, demography, and demand. Then we talked about, sorry, then we talked about the different kind of schemes which were there in MSCs. Agriculture, as I told you, that we talk about policies which are there for the fishermen, for cultivation. India is very well known for its herbs and spices. So not only agriculture, but herbal cultivation, organic farming, hydroponics, agro farming. So many variants are there, and all of these have to be acknowledged. We can't just say we are considering farmers. You have to consider and broaden your pool and take into consideration all these other things. Then, as I said, Manrega is a huge employment generation scheme, and we need to give importance to this particular scheme. And even after COVID, this was one of the schemes which could really give very good support system for the people who suddenly were without work. Okay, so these are all the things which I have actually spoken about: one nation, one card, PM Swanidhis, which I said for street vendors. PM Swanidhi scheme. That means street vendors who are entrepreneurs, to help them grow. Then credit support, as I said, that you get additional credit beneficiary cards when you are trying to do something different on you. Okay. Then tax relief, home buyers and developers will get that. Then you have like festival advance. Like India, there are a lot of festivals for which people spend a lot of money. So even for that, when it's a poor person, to motivate him that okay, the government is looking after you, we will give some kind of advances and benefits to them. Okay, so generally most of this I've talked about. Infrastructure, equity infusion, infrastructure debt financing, capital and industrial expenditure. So you want to have better quality industries, you want to have better infrastructure, you want to provide all that is required for all these people. Okay, now I'm just going to play one more clip over here. And this is also again from another important news channel, and maybe it will give you a better perspective. Please let me know if you can't hear it.
So bearing all this in mind, what the PM had to say to captains of industry, to the corporate world in Kolkata today becomes very important, because essentially what he's done is he's spelled out Atmanirbhar Bharat. Now, if you look at what the PM said and break it down, he very clearly said that India will have to stand on its own 2 feet. It won't happen without that taking place. India needs to reduce its dependence on other nations. That is what self-reliance really means. Now, the focus needs to be on manufacturing goods India is compelled to import at this stage. So, some sort of import substitution is required. There's a need to swiftly become exporters of goods India imports at this point. So, it's very clearly headed in that direction. That is what is needed. It also needs to stop importing goods which India's MSME sector can produce, because it employs a lot of people. Apart from that, it generates resources for the government as well as for the entire country. There's a need to take the economy out of command and control mode towards plug and play mode. So that is the kind of transition that is required. He's also said that we need to adopt use of indigenous handicraft and goods produced by crores of people working in self-help groups. Now, this is meant for everyone, not just for the industry. He's also said it's time to become vocal for local. This is meant for the entire nation, that we all have to push for this endeavor. Time to make every village, town, district, state, and nation self-reliant. in their own self. They have to be as self-sufficient as possible. Corporate world should help all stakeholders involved in their supply chains to come out and weather this crisis in the best manner possible. That's what the PM has advocated. The goal of self-reliance has been paramount in policy and practice of the country in the last 5-6 years. That's what the PM put across as well. The corona pandemic has now taught us a lesson on how to speed up the goal of self-reliance. Attaining that goal needs to be speeded up as well at this stage. Now, he said, use RuPay card for creation of self-reliant India. That is something that India has come up with, and more and more people should be using that as well. Apart from that, UPI as well is a good medium, especially when it's all about social distancing these days. The government is committed to people-centric, people-driven, and planet-friendly development. That's something that the PM underlined as well. So that's how self-reliant India will be achieved, and we'll be talking about this.
So I hope it was clear to all of you. Is the policy now clear to everybody?
Yeah, it's clear. Very clear.
So, yeah, that's why I thought that I'll play the two clips, because when we explain and what exactly is given will be there for you. So this is a really path-breaking policy which has come in, and we are still working on it. It's a new policy, hardly 3 years old. So the implications of such a policy cannot just be changed overnight, or you cannot know how well the policy is going to work so fast. So it takes time to see how a particular policy is going to work. But currently we should say that even for the G20 summit and all that we had, the same concept was there. Okay, what is that? The world is our home, or something like that. So where we say that we want everybody uh, come together, but we also are self-reliant. So there's a dual kind of message which this policy gives. The first message it gives is we should be self-reliant, but the second message is also equally important, that our connections or ties with the world also should be very good and very strong. So we're not thinking that we should be away or cut off from the world. That is not exactly how we are looking at a policy, because you must have seen that, if you know about Indian news, you'll see that so much travel and so much connections are being made with all over the world by our Prime Minister. So we are looking and creating a global world, but we also say that we need to promote the small micro industries and bring about self-reliance in the country. So I hope till this point everybody's with me. Okay. So the last thing that I'll cover for today is the banking sector reforms. Now, there were different committees since 1991 which talked about banking sector reforms, and this was another very huge sector which needed a lot of reform. So it was getting very saturated. There was no growth, nothing new was happening, and it was becoming very, very rigid. So because of that, when we started with banking sector reforms, we first important thing was regulation of interest rates. So we said, let the demand and supply in the market determine the rates which are going to be fixed. This was a very, very important step. Before this, it was always the banking system which would fix different rates. But after this, they said that no, let the market demand and supply conditions fix the rates of interest. The second is you started including small farmers, tiny industries, weaker sections on priority basis. So it was not, the banking system was no longer for the rich, it was for the poorer sections of society that we started talking about. Then, if you can see, SLR rates, 38% of money that you keep with yourself is a huge amount. So if you want investment, you have to reduce the SLR and CRR. So you find that both of these reduced to 25 to 15% in the recent ages, and because of that, what has happened is more money is available in the market for investments. Okay, then you find that different hierarchy started. So earlier we had a very strict system. Now we said there is a four-tier banking hierarchy. So the top section is SBI for international operations. Then you have general banks like the commercial banks. You also have local banks and regional rural banks. So in the rural areas, you have a huge network of banks, which is basically rural banking. So those will also come under. Then after that, again in 1998, there was some upgradation of the policies being talked about. So here we said that stronger bank capable of handling domestic liquidity and exchange rate management. So you need to have systems which will look into the liquidity within the country, because ultimately, if the liquidity is a problem, inflation will become a problem, recession will become a problem. So to handle all that, your exchange rate management and domestic liquidity have to be managed very, very well. So we needed stronger internal banking systems to be able to do this. Then narrow banking concept for weak banks means you do not give them too much to do. Narrow banking means you limit the amount of things that have to be performed by them. So by limiting that, you make their work more efficient. For example, if a person is not capable and you give the person 100 responsibilities, he'll not be able to perform at all. But if you say, okay, you just do this one thing, that person might dedicate all the efforts and do that one thing properly. So that is the whole concept, that you make the person do a limited amount, but at least get good results. Okay, and small sector banks or small banks catering to local areas was very important, because ultimately still we find that around 60% of our population stays in small villages. So we will say that it is very important that our systems or banking system in these small towns should be very well developed. Okay. So that basically is about the different kind of systems which we have. The financial sector reforms onwards, I will deal with in tomorrow's class. So I would like to know if there are any further questions or anything that you would like to ask me on this. Is are whatever portions I've covered, is it clear to all of you? Is it clear to all of you? The areas that we covered in today's class? Any questions, anything, or any inputs you'd like to give us? Do you have a scheme like Atmanirbhar Bharat in your country? And if you have it, what is it called? Yes, any of you?
Well, madam, from Mauritius,
Yes,
uh,
yes, Mr.
yes,
Neville.
it's not completely like that. It's some parts of it. Okay.
Okay, okay.
The government is providing, for example, for the agricultural sector,
Mm-hmm.
they are providing uh, like this. They are purchasing the seeds for cultivation of crops. They are
Okay.
purchasing the seeds in large amount in bulk, and
Mm.
they are providing them at a subsidized prices to the
Okay.
planters, a subsidized prices.
Okay.
That means
Okay.
it maybe below the price they paid for it, just to encourage, to motivate them to path away toward self
Mm.
reliance in vegetables, fruits, flowers, etc.
Mm.
Secondly, something like they are providing different scheme, with the mechanization of the agricultural sector. They are
Okay.
providing, let's say loan scheme, or at a very low rate for the
Mm.
importation of machines that can help to plow the land or to harvest the sugarcane. something like that. But they are helping them to motivate them to further invest in their lands for with different plants, different. This happened just after the COVID, because in the COVID it
Yeah.
was very
I
difficult.
think after
Yeah,
COVID, a lot of things have changed because I
yeah,
think it has just brought about a huge change in the perspectives of people.
yeah, yeah.
For example, in India also, before COVID, nobody would think of Google Pay for transferring money, or actually that importance for online banking or cashless society. We've been promoting it or trying to talk people into. Oh, it didn't happen. But the moment COVID started and post COVID, now everybody's become so tuned to using all these methods. So. There is a big change in perspective or in the way people see different things post COVID, I feel. So at least the digitalization and the cashless concepts have really started after COVID in India, I think. And even in small rural areas, we find that people have really become aware of these kind of processes. Yes, I saw somebody else's hand up. uh, Anyone else would like? Thank you, Nirmal. This is a very good perspective. But I also wanted to know that you spoke about. Yes, just 1 minute, Mr. Khan. I'll just come to you. So you spoke about mechanization and distribution of seeds for people. But what about self-reliance or doing your own kind of work? Yes, Mr. Khan, you'd like to add to that? Mr. Mr. Mungru, would you like to add anything to that? Or Sifo, I can see your hand is also raised. Would you like to add something to what we are discussing? Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to concur with you and on the point whereby you are saying that India wanted to advance in terms of exports to other nations. Recently, we have seen an influx of Indian product, mostly in Africa. An example in terms of vehicles. We have seen an example of vehicles like Tata opening up their distribution shops in Malawi and in South Africa. And I've seen a lot of software development from India being exported and used and supported in other nations. So it looks like on the pillar's part, it's working. There's an influence indeed in terms of export of Indian products to other countries as far as here in Africa, not only on the Asian part of it. Thank you.
So that's what, because it's a different kind of policy. That's why I played the two clips so that you could understand that it's quite a nice concept which has actually taken shape over here. So I really don't know about other countries whether they have these kind of schemes, but this is quite a new policy and quite an appreciated policy of India. That's why I wanted to play the clips, because see, every country identifies what is important for them, and if we can identify the problems and the positives of ours, then naturally we can work on it better. So that is what has happened through Atmanirbhar Bharat, because it has given a lot of hope to people, and it has a lot of positives which have emerged out of it. So I think that is the best thing about it. And as it is only 3 years old, we will find out in another 2-3 years how successful it is or what are the outcomes, and more of an analysis on the program will be there at a later stage. Okay, so that basically is there. So yes, Ravi, so you're also saying that there are some schemes like this in Mauritius, but more than schemes, Atmanirbhar Bharat is actually one complete kind of policy. It's not like parts. Before Bharat, there were a lot of small parts that some person is targeting agriculture, some person is talking about infrastructure, some person is talking about technology. But with this policy, it is, it is a comprehensive kind of plan which takes into being all the small sectors. So that is one big positive about the policy which we have talked about. So with this, I will end today's class and I will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is the last class on business environment, and day after we will start with, please be ready with your pens and pencils, because we will be solving out all the questions on different areas. So tomorrow's class, I will wind up with any important other things which are left of business environment. Okay. So I'll see you all on time tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. Good day to you all.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for the
Thank
lecture.
you. Thank you.